Alright, back with another sculpting video. In this episode, I'll be showing you my 1 year progression of this Breath of the Wild style Bokoblin. This one on screen here was actually one of my earliest sculpts in Blender, and I was quite happy with the result at the time. However, there were a lot of things I could have done better. You can even see that I didn't attach my vertex painting data to the actual sculpt, which meant that all my painting didn't actually show up in the render. That's how unfamiliar I was with this whole sculpting thing. But a year on, I've learned a lot more sculpting, refined my techniques, and enjoyed the process a lot more. That's why in this video I'll be showing you the same sculpt but just a year later. If you like the music you're hearing in this video, check out the creator Kylo, a good friend of mine who's got a lot of talents. Anyway, let's move on to the sculpting. So I start off with a subdivided cube, then going straight into the sculpting tab. I didn't really bother with any of the basic modeling, just using the grab tool to get the extremely rough outline of the head. I then very quickly enabled Dyne Topo mode, or dynamic topology, which means that new geometry will be added to the sculpt rather than manipulating the existing vertices. Some people prefer using voxel remesh or Dyne Topo with constant detail. However, I'm quite comfortable using the default settings. So you can already see that I've created the basic fundamental features of the character. The nose, the eye cavities, and the brow. I spent quite a bit of time on this character blockout phase, as this is crucial to get right, because once you've started adding higher details, it becomes really difficult to correct any errors. In fact, I'll put on my first failed attempt at creating the Bokoblin on screen now, just so you can see what a rushed blockout phase looks like. Yeah, not pretty. Either way, skipping on slightly further, I use UV spheres for the eyes, just to get a better sense of how the face will turn out. I also added a bit more detail to the brow region and the lower part of the face. So at this point I thought it was a good idea to make the ears, since this was a significant feature of the character overall. Simply I masked out the area I wanted to extrude, inverted that mask, then used the snake hook tool to pull out this section outwards, like so. Quick side note, I would just like to say at this point I was really enjoying the process. I got into the flow of things, my sculpt was coming along quite nicely, so I was thinking to myself, yeah, I'm enjoying this. Anyway, moving on, when it came to adding more detail to the sculpt, I found that understanding basic anatomy greatly enhanced the overall image. Knowing where certain muscles connected and led to made our Bokoblin look slightly more realistic. Even though I know it's not real or strictly anatomically accurate, it's still based off of a humanoid form, so the logic kind of works out. At this stage I was comfortable adding higher detail to the sculpt. Sharp wrinkles and skin folds were formed primarily through the use of the crease brush, which is definitely in my top 5 most used brushes in Blender. It's just incredibly convenient, as you can see me using it all over the model, for the ears, to the brow, and also around the eyes. I also wanted to ensure that the expression was how I envisioned it. The intended look was for the Bokoblin to have this menacing grin, so you'll see me playing about with the position of the brow and the eyes to get this effect. Here's a little progress update on our Bokoblin boy. He's looking good. Most of the characteristics are there. Few things missing: the teeth, nasal holes, iconic horn of course. This stage took about 50 minutes, which is a good pace for me. So the next few features I was adding, I made the horn using a separate object, a cylinder, and then I shaped it into a cone shape of course. Remeshed the whole of the sculpture to join them smoothly. Then using the crease brush, I made some of those skin folds found at the top of the head. Next up was the teeth. I made this from a cube with subsurf enabled. Some simple extrusions and manipulations to get these very jagged and crude shapes. Repeated this process a few times. I got a little bit lazy, duplicated some of the teeth, scaled, rotated in order to make them slightly more different. The sculpt was nearing completion. After adding the nasal cavities and adjusting the horn, I decided to give this disembodied head a bit more of a body. Not much, just the neck and some of the trailing trapezius muscles, I think that's what you call them, trying to give the sculpt that hunchback look that all Bokoblins have. I also used a subdivided cube for the tongue, making it stick outside the mouth, hanging over the left hand side of the Bokoblin's face. The sculpt was 95% done at this point, but for a few final touches, I say final with air quotes because I'm rarely ever finished with my sculpts, I turn off symmetry, then add in a few details such as scars on the face, a cut on its left ear, and using the grab brush to manipulate the facial expressions. At this point, I was almost 2 hours in. I wanted to add more details, but my laptop was crying in pain. Unfortunately for the laptop, we had to press on with vertex painting. Vertex painting wasn't really difficult, color within the lines, and it turned out okay. At this point, Blender was running at 4 frames per second since it was handling about 1.2 million vertices. So, understandable. I gave the skin a vibrant red color using the flood fill function, then manually painting the inside of the ears using a desaturated brownish color, giving the lips and nose a fleshy pink color, and some general dark colors around the eyes, the scars, and anywhere else that would kind of make the Bokoblin look more interesting. I add some materials to the eyeball, simple materials. I mixed the principal BSDF with an emission shader so that the eyes could have a slight glow to it. Using a curve to create the string, I model and attach a very basic skull to it to create a necklace for the Bokoblin to wear. With the built-in 3-point lighting add-on enabled, I use this to illuminate the scene. I don't really get the technical aspect of what makes a well-lit scene, but I know semi-decent light when I see it. So I just position them by hand, changing the intensity until I'm satisfied. Having a slight blue-orange contrast between the two of the lights was also quite nice. I check a few render things to make the scene look a little bit better: ambient occlusion, screen space reflection, bloom, medium-high contrast, all that good stuff. I decided that I'm happy with the results so far, so I decide to hit render and see what it looks like. So this is our Bokoblin, no compositing, and I would say it's quite good, but we can do a little more by going into the compositing tab. One last thing is compositing, which doesn't take too long. I always have my standard node setup that I use in almost every render I make, lens distortion for the chromatic aberration, ellipse mask for the vignette effect, a color balance if I want to tweak anything, and I even add some sunbeams to make our Bokoblin boy shine a little bit more. But that's it. I had a lot of fun with the sculpt. In total, I'd say it took around 2.5, maybe 3 hours, which included sculpting, refining, texturing, and compositing. Although there were a few things that I could have done better, I'd say I'm quite happy with this result, as this is just a stepping stone for becoming a better artist. Random question to any of the Breath of the Wild / Zelda fans out there. What do you think of the new trailer? Personally, I love it. I thought that Breath of the Wild was a fantastic game, so I'm excited to see more. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a message. I love replying to random people in the comments, or you can like and subscribe. I don't really mind either. But okay, I've gone on long enough, so thank you for watching and goodbye.